We'll get started with our last speaker of the day. We've got Candy Morton here with a quarter century of documentation experience, superhero at debugging, spending time at the computer and then not spending time at the computer with family and her beautiful dogs. And she's ready to begin our next conversation, topic, and presentation, creating contextual content experiences. Everyone, please welcome Candy Morton.
Thank you. I'd just like to add to my notes that, unlike Dennis, I am a huge DITA advocate, DITA fan. I'm all things DITA, so just keep that in mind about me. All right? Yeah. Okay, let's move along on this journey, shall we? So who wants to learn how I became the Wizard of Docs at Automation Anywhere? All right? They've made my face look scary. I don't know if I really pull it off in person, but anyway, be scared. So I've worked at Automation Anywhere now for the last 3 years. Over the past 1.5 years that I've been at Automation Anywhere, I've spent my time focusing on the adoption of Zoomin and Pendo as our in-product help widget, as well as leveraging Pendo guides to improve our user adoption and onboarding experience. Because we just know, probably all of you in this room know, that it's really hard to get good product adoption and keep users just involved and interested in your product. And not only product documentation can do that, but a good in-product user assistant. So that's what I'm here to talk about. And I have been in the industry for many, many years. I've been here so many years, I'm gonna tell you, the first documentation authoring tool I started on was Interleaf. Now, I don't know if Dennis will look up for that one. At Tektronix, mind you. So if you're from the area, you'll know that I'm from the Stone Ages. So 20-some years ago, I was working at IBM while we were developing DITA. So I worked with Michael Priestley, Mike Iantosca, and Don Day along the way. I don't know if anybody's familiar with them. And then I also learned DITA from our IA architect at the time, who was a huge DITA advocate. Amber Swope is one of my buddies, and she's actually lives here in Portland, Oregon. And I'm also the localization lead for both the documentation and the UI in the product. So, and I forgot to advance my bullets. That's just what's happening here. So we're gonna move on to the next slide. So I work at Automation Anywhere. We are the #1 enterprise automation space and the #1 cloud robotic process automation company. We look at any way to automate anything within an enterprise product. Within the Docs team, we've been drinking our own champagne. I've automated many of our own doc processes, things that are just time consuming. To give you an example, I created a bot that goes into the DITA and pulls our metadata taxonomies and generates a classification XML file that's used on my documentation portal. Another cool bot story that I like to share, but really has nothing to do with context-sensitive help. One of my coworkers created a bot during the beginning of the pandemic when formula was out of stock everywhere. And this bot would go and search your location and tell you exactly every single formula that was in stock in any store and online vendor. So I just think that's a pretty cool story I wanted to share. Okay, moving right along. So, many of you know and have experienced the sepia world when it comes to context-sensitive help, right? So I'm trying to just, this is when everybody was stuck in time, right? Back in the olden ages. We all know that back in the 90s and early 2000s, context-sensitive help was really hard to set up. As you know, Dorothy was joined by the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, and the Cowardly Lion. The Yellow Brick Road serves as a unifying force that brought them together, and it reinforces the importance of collaboration and teamwork in achieving these goals. And we've been talking all about collaboration today, and collaboration and teamwork is very important, right? Everything has to come full circle. There's just so many pieces to the puzzle to make it work. So I went down this road on my journey with my design team, my product management, writers, Zoomin, who's here today, and Pendo. So our team sat down, and after we put our heads together, we proposed to Zoomin a widget integration option for seamless usability of the existing Pendo Resource Center that we're currently using and Zoomin's in-product help widget. So the two widgets are seamlessly integrated, and the user isn't even aware that they're bouncing from one to the other. Sorry about that. So adoption of Pendo has really helped us out. We've really, already noticed product engagement going up, which is great. So, the promised land, Zoomin for Pendo. So, adoption of the help widget has allowed our organization to deliver our existing content directly to users at the precise time and the right place they need it with the right user interface. We also have extensive contextual help without them having to leave the product ever. Filtering out content using metadata, so we're able to filter out legacy content and other taxonomies. So we have a legacy product, we have a new A360 product, we have one single documentation portal, and we're able to filter out the content that is viewed within each of those product widgets, which is great. So integrating Pendo guides to help content in the widget has been done. Within my Pendo guide, if a user clicks to see the documentation link, it's actually going to open the in-product help widget within the product, and they don't have to leave the product. Again, no external website needed. Another great thing about Zoomin is that they're able to accommodate our on-prem customers who, a lot of them have security concerns, and the widget is available as a standalone widget, which is great. All right. So, bumps that we encountered along the way. Of course we encountered bumps, right? Who doesn't? All right, so we had many integration challenges. Integrating Pendo with existing systems and workflows can be very complex and requires significant effort from both technical and non-technical teams, right? It's hard to get developers to agree to, at least in my experience, I don't know how you might have a different feel, but it's really hard to get them to agree to, add new features. You've got to worry about code freeze, all sorts of things around that. And then there were security challenges, right? Getting the dev team to sign on. We had to add third-party vendors to the content security policy whitelists. And that upset the dev team, that upset some customers. So I had to do a lot of back and forth to get that to happen. And next is user adoption. Encouraging internal teams to adopt new tools is always difficult, right? People don't like change. Change is difficult. There's too much work. There's a lot of resistance, right? And if users are already comfortable with the tools they're using, why change? There's no need to change. And then we had a lot of design challenges. We went round and round with the UX team. We got some custom CSS in place, which is great. We've got control of that in the admin panel. And it takes a while to get the templates approved by our design team. So there's been some pushback there. All right, and I went way too fast because I'm almost done. So that's how I became the all-powerful Wizard of Docs. I kind of like to think of myself as a one-stop shop, right? I administer Pendo, I administer Zoomin. I don't have to rely on the docs or the developers to get code in the docs, which is nice. And I've also been working as a bridge between the product managers, my writers and designers. we've been putting together a Pendo library of guides and templates that can be used in the product. And then in the Zoomin for Pendo widget, we are also able to define landing pages depending on where the user is in the product. We have predefined sets of topics that are best for that page that they happen to be on in the product. So I define those landing pages in a JSON file. So anyway, that's been my journey here at Automation Anywhere. And this is where I was going to give a demo, but I was told, Candy, you don't want to give a demo because it's not going to go okay. So we're skipping the demo, and I'm going to share with you a video, if I can get it to play. So here is the resource center at the bottom right, brings up Pendo. So we have some Pendo onboarding guides, and then you can see the help. This is actually the Zoomin widget. So we're able to, and this widget is pulling in documentation directly from the Docs portal. So if I was to go and make a change on the Docs portal, it's immediately reflected in this widget topic. So the users are always getting the latest and greatest help. And then you can see here the suggested for you. So depending on where they navigate in the product, I'm suggesting the topics that are pertinent to that page they're on. Okay, and now we have our bot editor. And you can see here in the bot editor, we have these actions to build bots. And you can see the little documentation icon at the top. So the user can bring that up, and they can have that help side by side with the panel that they need to fill out the content in, which we've had great feedback about. And I'm just showing a few examples here. I just threw this video together before here when I heard I couldn't do a demo. So it's a little, it was done a little on the fly. But you can see here, every package action, the CS help is just in the widget. The widget's draggable, you can move it. You don't ever, have to worry about covering any of your fields. And that's the demo of the Zoomin for Pendo help widget. The next thing, so I said we use Pendo quite a bit to promote new features, if we look at product usage for an existing feature and we see that it's not getting any use or any hits, then we'll put a Pendo guide up for that and give them some information, right? They can remind me later, which will dismiss the guide until the next login. Or if they click Learn More, it'll open that little in-product help widget and bring the help topic up. And then we also set something called guide goals. So I'm able to track in Pendo, once the user views this Pendo guide, do they actually go into the product and click on the steps that we told them to follow? And we've set the bar at 60%, and we've been seeing some pretty good results from that. So this just happens to be, we have a new task bot for template feature in our product, and we work with marketing, and we work with the PMs, and this is one of the Pendo examples. So, like I said, I went a little fast, but that was it from me. So, do we have any questions?
Thank you so much, Candy. Well, we'll bring out the chairs, as is our favorite thing to do post-talk here.
Okay.
And so we've got great questions for Q&A. And before I get started with those, I come from a Docs as Code background, and I would love sort of what is DITA to someone who's a Docs as Code person? If you were to do and explain like I'm 5, because I am. What would you start off with me?
It's all about content reuse for me with DITA.
Yeah.
I think it's very complicated. I don't know. I mean, when I first started using it, it took me a long time to get up to speed.
Yeah.
But, and I'm sure, content reuse is what DITA is all about, okay? And I don't know if, we could sit down and talk later. And I don't know how many people here are authoring in DITA. I'm just curious.
Yeah, we've got a solid half dozen, maybe solid dozen.
Okay, that
yeah.
doesn't seem solid to me, but I was expecting like a 75%.
Yeah, I mean,
in
the
my
elbows were
mind,
locked.
the whole world is using DITA, so I don't know why you're not.
Oh.
You what?
Readability.
Well, and how is DITA not readable? See, I don't like Markdown.
We've got a strong head-to-head here.
DITA's really,
tail of the tape, DITA, half dozen, Docs' code.
DITA is really difficult to use, and I think like using Oxygen, I don't know what author people, I use Ixiasoft now, I've used Oxygen, I've used Arbortext, and it is difficult. I have quite a few writers that are young and they onboard and they just cannot pick up DITA. So what they do is they author in Word and then they use Oxygen's Word to DITA conversion and convert it. So it does take a long time to learn the tool, and it is very complex.
Yeah, I mean, 5-year-old me, that's what I would do. I would put in items in a WYSIWYG.
I had to stop them. I had to uninstall the conversion plugin and no, you're gonna learn how to author in DITA.
Yeah, like most things, there is a learning curve, and I imagine anyone who's trying to get into Docs' code, there's a steep learning curve with Git as an example. And with a lot of things in technical documentation and technical communication, the learning curve is part of the journey in terms of getting strong content out to folks. And I think that it's an important thing to remember. That's just the journey that we go through when we're working to help the end users or our internal users.
Speaking of learning curves, I don't know, is anybody out there currently using Pendo? Well, if you're thinking about it, you better start now, because I've been using it for a year and I'm still trying to figure things out. I mean, it's a great tool. It can do amazing things, but it's very complex and there's a lot to learn. So start while you're young.
Is it one of those tools where you have multiple ways of solving a specific kind of problem? Is it that robust in that sense?
Yeah. So we can target. And I should have talked about this if I wasn't speaking so quickly earlier.
We've got time, yeah.
So with Pendo, you can target, so many things. You can target a tenant URL in a product, right? You can target what license type. You can target what permissions the user has. You can target their language. And that's all done through segmentation.
Can you get even more granular than that? And that's kind of where
you can go really deep in the weeds. I'm trying to think of some other things that are, but it's interesting. And then Zoomin for Pendo has really been amazing. This whole integration that we did with Zoomin, we've seen over a 50% uptake in context-sensitive consumption and just, people staying in the product since we've implemented it. And, I really have to say that those landing pages that I was showing you, that's huge, right? Because if I have a new feature that goes out as a preview tomorrow, I don't have to worry about the developer to get any code hooks in or anything. I just have to take that URL, there's a product URL that, depending on the new feature, and I have to stick it in a JSON file. And I work with the content experts to define those links, and I can have that content up within an hour. So that's huge.
Yeah, the velocity of that, you're really working in your favor that way.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you look back to the sepia days, right? Where you had content was 3 months old. I mean, I have content ready in 3 minutes if I want. That's huge. That's a huge success. Yeah.
Anything else to add before we hop into the Q&A?
Let's go for it.
All right, thank you. And put out that incendiary DITA versus not DITA that we had earlier.
We've got Amber Swope was here. I'd get her up here.
From Brooke here, we've got a question. Getting your docs to fit in such a small in-app window is hard. How do you deal with that? Especially for long steps, screenshots, providing breadcrumbs.
I yet again should have shared, so that little tiny widget, you can actually put it in theater mode and full screen mode, as well as going to an external browser. So if anybody's really interested, because I did go through this so quickly, I'm going to be hanging out probably tomorrow at the Zoomin booth, and you'll find me anywhere. So go ahead and grab me, and we can do a demo and look at things together. But it is, I did find that some of the steps and things tend to run over to the side of the page, but I have a custom CSS for the widget, so I can overwrite some of the settings on the docs portal to make things fit properly. So.
Awesome. Yeah, so again, find you at the Zoomin booth.
Yes.
And then just, if they see you, you'll step aside and
then we
go
also,
ahead.
we localize, we support 7 languages, so everything in Pendo and in the help widget is localized.
Excellent. Yeah. We've got this next question here from Douglas. Do you still maintain a matching external help site as well? Are you all in for
No.
in-product help access?
No, we still maintain an external doc website that is hosted on Zoomin. And like I said, we are very, collaborative development constantly. We probably refresh our production portal on a daily basis, and we do not maintain currently separate product versions. It's one and done with us. But like I said, when I do update the documentation portal, those updates are immediately imported into the widget. So it's a seamless integration.
Awesome. That's happening very quickly,
Yes,
real time.
quickly.
Yeah. Question here. Anonymous has been very busy today. You mentioned looking at Pendo to compile user insights. Do you ever use Pendos to measure documentation usage, metrics? And if so, how does that work?
We do not for documentation metrics, but Zoomin has their own analytics tool that's very robust. If you stop by the Zoomin booth, I'm sure they can tell you all about it. I can also give you a demo. And then we also, through that Zoomin analytics, can collect in-product help data as well. So we can tell, what CSH is getting the most hits. There's all sorts of data that can be collected.
So, metrics are real easy to work into. Yeah.
Yes.
This question here, have you found any guidance on how to make the widget helpful without it becoming too annoying or too troublesome? This one says specifically, thinking of Clippy.
Clippy, huh? No, I don't find it annoying, and I don't think, so I will say that when we first implemented this, on the bot editor page that I showed that had all of those actions, the editor at the right was not draggable, so it was static, and we were having problems with when the widget page came up. There was some coverage or some overlap, and you couldn't enter the text into the fields, but that's all been taken care of. And we really haven't had any negative feedback about it.
That's a win.
It's not. I could change the icon to make it look like Clippy, and then it might make people mad. But
yeah, if anyone uses their own image in that place.
Yeah, we really haven't had any negative feedback. I mean, it's a huge improvement, right? You saw that demo with the panel, the CS help right up next to the, where you have to enter your input. So it's,
yeah,
who's going to complain about that?
Yeah, the more dynamic, the more it feels at home when you're trying to fix something that way.
Yeah.
We got some next question here from Sarah. Have you written your content differently given the size of the widget and product? Writing shorter topics as an example add-on?
No, we have not, and I don't think that we probably will. The users are going to have to expand the widget if they want to theater mode, or we just really haven't had any issues.
Okay, that hasn't been a...
No, it hasn't. We haven't been talking about that. Of course, we're changing how we write our content for AI, but nothing specific to the widget.
Yeah, and that's a topic that
that's
I'm
a whole separate
topic. Next question here. How do you decide the level of detail to go into with in-app experiences? Do you ever worry about overloading your users?
Oh, yes. We have a lot of... I won't say negative feedback, but some customers do get really mad
Yeah.
when they're
It's
seeing
friction.
too many guides, right? Oh, look, this, buy this, how all the negative ads, if you're on Facebook or wherever you're at. So that's why we really have to segment these things just, so fine that, I know that an administrator with an RE license isn't going to want to see something for a Copilot user. And we try to time the guides, right? So if we're rolling out a new one, we want to make sure that we set the previous one that's going to appear on that same page, we want to take it down because you don't want to have two guides conflicting coming up on the screen.
Oh, so there's like a very strong deprecation strategy behind all of it that way. Okay. Douglas back with a couple of questions here, or one specifically. Clarifying, in the video, Zoomin is the widget that's floating on top of your company's software, and Pendo is your underlying help library? Question mark.
Pendo has something called a resource center, and that's the little widget with the window that pops up. And within the onboarding link that I shared, those are Pendo walkthroughs and tours. That is all Pendo. And now Zoomin has their own, Zoomin actually, and I should have specified this, Zoomin has their own separate in-app widget. And we didn't want there to be two widgets coming up on the page. That would be annoying. That would be clippy. So we went to Zoomin and we said, we want to have this seamless integration. We only want there to be one widget. So that's where they came up with the code to integrate theirs into Pendo's. So there's only one widget. Now, if you want to implement Zoomin's in-product help, it's also available with a different widget that doesn't look like Clippy. So you don't have to have Pendo to have this.
Okay, so you're not throwing widgets inside of a ring and just hoping one comes out as a winner
fight
that
to
way.
the death.
Yeah. Oh, great, because Clippy would win. And next, we have a question. Are you writing and storing different versions of your docs for use in the widgets? And then in parentheses here, shorter snippets, for example.
No, we're not. No plans to either, as far as I know.
Okay. More questions here. How does the Zoomin Pendo widget impact documentation metrics? Curious to see how success is measured with this solution.
Okay, I have to think about that. So we have our own Pendo metrics that look at the success rate and the click rate in the bot editor on the icons themselves. And we've seen a huge uptick in that usage, okay? And it's probably because everything stays in app. And I also mentioned we have both those Pendo metrics as well as the analytics in the Zoomin portal that also show the different widget. And I can share those with somebody if they want to come see me. I can go into more detail on those.
Again, the Zoomin booth on the side, and if you run into Candy outside, she'll grab you some time.
You can get your Zoomin coffee cup.
There you go. Do users ever have to click out of the widget for more information?
No, they don't. All of the links within the topics, open in the widget. The videos play within the widget. I'm trying to think of a scenario when they get taken outside. If I'm going to take you to a manual on Google's site or somewhere like that, that will go in an external browser. But everything that's housed in our Zoomin documentation portal will launch within the widget. Nothing, it won't take you anywhere else.
Okay, so you're staying in that sandbox there.
We're staying, yeah.
Okay, this question's a bit broader here. How do you enable other engineering stakeholders to contribute to docs, and how do you enable shared reviews?
Good question. We have lots of sessions, lots of meetings. So when we're doing our Pendo guides, typically it's a PM will come to me and say, hey, I want to put this cool thing out with this new feature, and they want to bypass marketing or engineering, and they want me to just do it. And I'm like, no. There's a request form that has to be filled out. We have to get, design has to approve everything. Then we work with the content, we work with the SMEs, we also work with marketing because they want the text to be market feeling, they don't want this, product documentation, this lengthy, conceptual or task information in a Pendo guide. They want it to be catchy. So it is, we do have many, I would say it takes like 10 iterations to get something signed off before we publish it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of trust in the process for that.
There's a lot of, I was surprised there's so much that goes into the process for such a little outcome, right? For this little bubble on a page. I'm like, who knew that it would take, a month or more to get something like that into production? That's something that really, I was surprised by that.
Yeah, we've got Sarah back with a question here. How do you decide what docs to put in Pendo? And then how do you decide to what docs to make available in product?
It's usually an ask from PMs and just working with SMEs, right? And lots of iterations. I don't make any of these decisions myself. I'm just a tools person. I'm not even a doc writer. So I did a stint of doc writing and it wasn't my thing. But just lots of iterations and working with everybody, with all the stakeholders. Mm-hmm. I don't think any one person makes the decision.
Yeah.
There are lots of ideas that, lots of proposals that come out that don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because they just don't make sense.
You talked a bit about your stint in docs writing, and this is a Candy Morton specific question here. It says, how did you get hired into a tool ops role?
Well, many years ago when I was like 5 and I worked at IBM, I was working as a tech writer, and so one of our tooling people who was in Raleigh she was pondering retiring, and she also needed help on her team. So somebody came to me because they knew I loved debugging. I love broken builds. I love to get into a build and figure out. I could sit all day long and just look at build logs. That's like my passion. I think that's fun. So they came to me and they said, Candy, why don't you, 50% of your time go work with this tooling person. And she was amazing. She was like my mentor. She taught me everything. And when she retired, I took over. And then I trained somebody, I'm sitting on my wire. I had a team in Guadalajara, so I had some build folks in Guadalajara that I worked with.
For the cheer, yeah.
Yeah, when I was at IBM. I've got a whole team of Guadalajara buddies. I went there. We did tequila tasting. It was fun. We many stories. But yeah, that's how I got into it, and that's where I've been ever since. And I did mention that I do localization, and I'm really getting into localization as well, working with the vendors, and we're getting ready to migrate to a new TMS right now, so lots of stuff on my plate.
The Candy Morton answer there about the journey. A couple more questions with the time that we got left here. Do your users need to opt in for Pendo or Zoomin? How do you encourage them to accept this or that usage?
They do not have to opt in. It is enabled by default. We have had a few users come to us and say, we want this disabled. And so we have a list of, host URLs and tenants that are on the do not spam list. I won't say that. They don't want to have fun, so we put them on a list and they opt out. So
docs just want to have fun. That makes sense. Next question here, good balancing question about how do you navigate putting docs into your product without overcrowding the product's UI?
That's why we got them in a widget, right? They're in a little widget. We're not overcrowding things.
Yeah.
Like I said, we try to keep our Pendo guides to a minimum. We try to get the most bang for our buck. And having that little powerful widget kind of just, puts the guardrails up, I guess I'd say.
Yeah.
Sorry if that was a stupid answer, but hey, it's all I got.
Here we are with the next question here. I'm not sure if I've asked this already. Do you publish the same content on the web as in Pendo, or do you layer content? And going down the website allows the user to drill down?
Yes, it does. Sense? Yes. The exact same content, and yeah, they can drill down just like they do on the docs portal. They can search, they can do everything they can do on the portal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then Sophia's got a question here. So follow up on the stakeholder contribution. Mm-hmm. Do you have developers contributing to documentation? If so, how do they work with DITA? Just what's that?
They don't. So we have, typically, we generate PDFs for our SMEs. honestly. We do, I don't know if I mentioned, we migrated to Ixiasoft. It's our new CCMS, and there is a collaborative review tool in there, but we are not yet leveraging it. Most of the writers just generate PDFs for their SMEs. So unfortunately, that's what the current process.
Living with the PDFs.
Yeah, we went to PDFs.
Yeah, and then we've got our final question.
Okay.
Just an open-ended one, or not an open. Can you use Pendo with Markdown or Git, or do you have to be using DITA?
So Pendo, so that's probably a question for the Pendo for Zoomin for Pendo widget. And I don't think it matters. I don't have Zoomin here. We'll have to talk to them. But I know that they have people sourcing in Markdown and all sorts of other, so it's not a DITA specific thing, no.
Awesome. Well, Candy, Morton, thank you. It's been a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Everyone, round of applause.
Yeah.